Hello and welcome to Edukemy's YouTube channel and editorial discussion for 27th April 2022. My name is Harsh Singh and in this video we shall discuss an editorial from The Hindu which is titled Mission Antyodaya should not fall by the wayside. This editorial speaks about the need for resurgence of Mission Antyodaya and its primary objectives for serving India's village and countryside. If you like this initiative, share some love through likes, comments and shares. Let's discuss. The editorial says that local government has been one of the important pillars for grassroots empowerment. Local governments need to empower people through direct action. For example, meeting of village panchayat. There must be district planning committee, which is headed by the DC of the district, and they prepare a bottoms-up approach. What is required as for planning at the grassroots, and they meet and then they plan for the state, and this is how various states produce the plan and share it with the center. Grassroots planning should lead the way, right? For example, reservation for women, which was one third in various areas, should be now increased to 50%. Population based representation for the marginalized communities like scheduled caste, scheduled tribes. State finance commission, which should give recommendations on how to make the village and rural area financing more sustainable. So these are the ways in which grassroots empowerment must happen, but this is not happening in the country. What we see as a result of socio-economic caste census data of 2011, it shows very clearly that rural countryside is as poor as it can get. 90% of rural households have no salaried jobs. They're dependent on some casual work, labor, part-time work, or participation in the village economy, like agriculture sector. 50% of them sustain on manual casual labor. And many of the people do not get even employed or are in disguised unemployment. Many of them suffer the multiple deprivations in the village life, house not being able, family circumstances not great, especially for household which are led by females, and this despite India spending $3 trillion rupees every year by the center and state government combined. That means we are spending money, but it is not resulting into proper development of the grassroots. It is not resultant into the data that is shown by the socio-economic caste census. Then what is happening? That's an important question. And this is where Mission Antyodaya was introduced. It was introduced in the year 2017-18, and the prime objective was poverty-free villages, poverty-free gram panchayats. They had envisaged that they would pick up 50,000 gram panchayats out of the 2.5 lakh gram panchayats. So 20% of them would be picked up and they would be created in 5,000 rural clusters. One rural cluster should ideally be containing 10 gram panchayat. And the idea was to ensure that with the help of measurable outcomes in those areas, these villages should be made free of poverty. Right, so optimal utilization of resources, convergence of government programs, these were the important envisaged goals. Not that the government programs are not running, but there is less convergence between the programs. One simple example is, suppose we have a rural wage scheme. Simple example is MNREGS scheme. So people are being employed for rural wages on per day basis. And if the total outlay by the government reduces in this sector, then there should be skill development in that village. There should be development of initiatives for self-employment. Now, this convergence is required at village levels so that people do not fall out of employment. Similarly, when rural roads are not getting constructed, even if we have a health facility located 2 kilometers apart, it is not going to be any help because people will not be able to move to this place. Therefore, rural roads should be complemented with education, health, and other facilities. For example, simple example is, if we are providing a lot of health facilities for people, but the water there is not pure, people will still fall ill, right? So therefore, convergence of programs is mandated, and this is where Mission Antyodaya had picked up 50,000 gram panchayats of the country and said in 2017-18 that by 2019 we would create these villages, these gram panchayats, as poverty free. Poverty free. This would have helped a lot for the development of the country, right? And what are they going to do? Convergence of the frontline workers at cluster level, at block level, at village level. There will be resource persons for this. There will be professionals at Grand Panchayat. There will be institutions created with the help of district administration. All of them will be working towards focusing what is the need of a specific village. And this would help in social infrastructure, participatory planning of the people, economic opportunities, democratic process. All of them will be set up. So grassroots empowerment will happen in the country. This Mission Antyodaya was envisaged by the Ministry of Panchayati Raj and Rural Development. right? So this is the objective of Mission Antyodaya, very important scheme. And please remember, this scheme is a different scheme than the Antyodaya Livelihood Mission or Antyodaya Anna Yojana, that is for all the people in the country, but this is specific for the rural areas. All right. So the prime objective of this Antyodaya mission is to carry out survey of all the villages. They carried out the survey, and the survey is present in the form of the website itself. You would see an extensive survey of many data. All is this data led, and there are many parameters, as many as 26 parameters, and they assess the performance of each gram panchayat with the help of this data based assessment. And there are these many indicators which talk about which are the ways in which the state or the district or the rural area should improve. So a very extensive survey, and this assessed very clearly in the website itself about two important surveys. One is infrastructure gap, service gap, and the other one is composite index gap. Now infrastructure gap says that out of all these 2.5 lakh villages, the percentage of villages which are in decent category. So let me share about the categories here. There are 10 categories created. So villages which have no infrastructure gap will have 100% markings. So they will be placed between 90 to 100, and then 80 to 90, 80 to 70, and thus up to 10 and 0. So there are no Indian villages which have excelled in infrastructure and service gap reduction. There are no Indian villages here, but there are only a few fractional Indian villages in the 90 to 80 category, right? Only 0.1% of villages. And in the third category, only average 70 to 80 percent of infrastructure and service gap coverage. Only 1% of Indian villages exist, out of which Kerala is at the top, 35%, and Gujarat 11% of villages. So there is a huge infrastructure and service gap despite of India's spending. Similarly, the composite index gap, which is like the human resources development, overall human resource development in the place, poverty alleviation, all those things. So in this, in the top 30 bracket, only 7% of the Indian villages are covered. And in this, Gujarat tops, after that Kerala and Karnataka. That means they cover around 20% of the villages of each of these states. Gujarat 20%, and then Kerala 20, Karnataka around 18%. The point being that neither the infrastructure or services being given to people, nor are the human indicators showing good indications in the Indian villages, yet the money is being spent. So this assessment, see, data is a very important way to understand what's happening. Only when we know the state of affairs or the real ground level situation through data will there be improvement in that. Anything we want to improve, we must measure. This is what the government says here. So out of these parameters which have been assessed, Panchayati Raj Ministry is the nodal body, because this is the ministry which is executing this project, Mission Antyodaya. So they know the pain points, and they can help in inclusive development of the country by roping in different ministries, different departments. There are many departments which are working in the alleviation of poverty. And have a look, this is the extensive data coverage. And one insider information for you all: if you know education, agriculture, rural development, rural housing, fuel and fodder, family welfare, public distribution, health and sanitary issues, social forestry, all these issues which have been mentioned here, for all the persons in the country, your syllabus will be covered. Your syllabus will be covered. So you must know five issues, five advantages, some case studies, some issues of examples, some data about each of them, and then you will see that you are able to solve many questions from contemporary issues in Indian in Indian scenario. So this is what the website also talks about. All right. Now, the goalpost has always been shifting. When they said that they would eliminate poverty in these 50,000 gram panchayats by 2019, it did not happen. They shifted the goalpost to 2022, right? So earlier this was to be marked by 150th birth anniversary of Gandhiji. Once he was born in 1969, and now it has now been shifted to 2022, 75 years of India's independence. Shifting of goalpost is not a great idea. Imagine if the exam is to be held on 5th of June, the pre-exam, and we shift the goalpost and say that now the exam will be held on 30th of October. How good is it for the people preparing or being ambitious about the examination? Very, very Very, very demotivating, right? And even if we prepone, this will be demotivating. So shifting of goalpost is not a good way to proceed here. We should be ambitious. War footing approach must be applied. And India's policy history also has been such. Just reveal ambitious plans and then do not make them attain their logical consequence or conclusion, right? The idea must be to converge all these resources. Now data is there. Have a planning to converge all this. For example, as I mentioned, MNREGA scheme outlay decrease, increase the outlay in rural livelihood mission, increase the social assistance for the people who are elderly or who are young, right? And provide such kind of infrastructure which is development for people and their progress. This will also save a lot of administrative cost, and fiscal federalism will also be ensured through a planning from grassroots level, right? So this is what is the editorial about. A very important editorial speaking about the development of village. So important for paper 3, important for paper 2 from governance perspective. All right, and a quick question for you all. Enlist 5 factors which result in snail pace growth of India's villages. Give examples as well. A small, simple question for you. Type down in the comment section and it will be great exercise for your brain. If you like this initiative, share some love through likes, shares, and subscribes. And if you have questions, please put it down in the comment section. Thank you for watching.